Okay, to break this down, what it means for the Canadian dairy producers, we've reached out to Bruce Muirhead. He is a supply management systems expert and a professor at the University of Waterloo. Bruce, sounds like you're the guy we need to talk to.
Oh, hi, it seems so. Yes, it's a bit of a mess.
You know, every time we talk about dairy producers in Canada and supply management, I feel like we need to just start with what is supply management and why is it in place in Canada?
Well, it's a system that's been around since 1966, so almost 60 years, coming up on 60 years. And it works very well for Canadian consumers and Canadian producers. It was established to manage supply, as it suggests, and to end surplus production, excess production, which is extremely wasteful of resources, time, energy. And it's focused only on the domestic market. It works very, very well for Canadians. And it's a domestic Canadian system.
And clearly, Donald Trump, the U.S. president, does not feel that it works very well for Americans, and he is looking to charge a tariff as high as 250% on U.S. dairy products. What do you make of that number, and is it even possible?
No, it's quite possible. He could charge 1,000%, I guess, if he wanted. But 250% or 240% is the number that actually kicks in after a certain tariff rate quota is met by imports into Canada. We do allow foreign imports. It's a Canadian system, supply management and dairy, but we do allow a certain volume of imports into the country, and it's about 18% of our domestic market, which is actually a very, very large share. But we don't really export very much. It's, as I say, it's an internal Canadian system, so it's there to support Canadian consumers. But according to our WTO obligations and USMCA obligations as well, we do allow a certain volume, a percentage of imports, dairy imports, into the domestic economy.
So were this tariff to take effect later today, tomorrow, Monday, no one knows, what kind of an effect on our dairy industry do you think it would have?
I don't think it would be overly substantial. We did export last year about $293 million to the U.S. in terms of dairy. We imported about $756 million from the United States into Canada. So that's about our exports to the United States, very, very small percentage. It's about 3% of the total Canadian dairy market. So again, I don't think it would have an overly significant effect on Canadian dairy production. As I said, our system is set up to respond to domestic market issues really only, and not necessarily foreign ones. I will say that some processors, will be adversely affected if this 250% tariff goes into effect. But it is a very small percentage of the overall Canadian dairy market.
Bruce, this is not the first time that we've heard the U.S. Take issue with Canada's dairy industry, the supply management system that's in place. And also, the United States is not the only country that has taken issue with this. And I think I understand that it's because they want access to the domestic market.
They do. Fluid milk is a very lucrative part of the dairy industry. You can't truck fluid milk very far, very easily. Have to be concerns about refrigeration, distance, the heaviness. So the American dairy industry produces far too much milk for domestic consumption, and also far too much milk for its international exports as well. So they want access to our market simply to deal with the deficiencies of their own dairy system, which is that they produce in their agribusiness sector, massive farms, far too much dairy for their own consumption and also international consumption.
So what I'm I think hearing you say here is that maybe that is the issue, a long-standing issue for the United States, but perhaps the tariff proposed by Donald Trump doesn't really address that?
No, I'm not quite sure what he's attempting to get at here. And I would guess it has something to do with his lack of understanding of how the Canadian dairy system works. It's not going to have a huge impact upon how our system works. In fact, it is largely self-contained, aside from this very small percentage which is exported to the United States, which will be a disadvantage to those people participating in that trade. But basically, it won't be affected. Our system guarantees Canadian food security, which we see now in particular as being critically important. And it, as I said before, it is focused only on Canadian production and satisfying demand for Canadian consumers, aside from this very small percentage that we export.
Bruce Muirhead, so great to have you on this and help us understand a little more of it in depth. Joining us from Waterloo,
Pleasure.
Ontario. Good to speak with you. Thanks.
Thanks very much.